Next is the global address on next generation network revenue drivers for telcos. I would like to invite Julian Gorman, Head of Asia Pacific GSMA, for this session. Over to you, Mr. Gorman.
To distinguished guests and speakers and all who are joining today for this India Mobile Conclave, thank you for joining and thank you for welcoming me. It's my pleasure and honour to be here on behalf of the GSMA today. India is part of GSMA's APAC region, a region diverse in market and technology maturity, and where in the past mobile technology availability has often been synonymous with leadership. However, those days are becoming increasingly distant as the measure of leadership now relates to the transformation of industry, government and society to digital. And in these measures, India's influence and standing amongst leading nations continues to rise. So thank you to the Economic Times for hosting this event and providing me with an opportunity to express my thoughts on the role of the next generation network as a driver for revenue in India. But to set the stage for my comments, we really need to consider what we're referring to as next generation networks. As I've already mentioned, technology maturity and leadership were in the past synonymous together. But for India, when we refer to next generation networks, I believe we need to take two views. One is the short-term view, and that is, by short-term, what is the technology that would dominate in the coming few years and be the foundation of digital transformation and the engine for the digital India vision over the next 3 to 5 years. The longer-term view is what is the technology that we need to prepare for to ensure a prosperous and sustainable future for India's vision, extending beyond that period. 4G has been the dominant technology across the region for a number of years. And since 2018, India rapidly went from below regional average penetration of 4G to now being nearly 2/3 on 4G, ahead of the regional average. However, the usage gap of 63% is considerably higher than the regional average, and its reduction of only 1% from last year is well behind regional peers who have reduced the gap by over 3%. Nevertheless, the momentum is favourable. With large-scale investments and innovation to move customers to 4G, we see India catching up to the regional average by 2025. And at that time, we expect over 80% of India's users will be on 4G. With respect to the longer term, by 2025, India will have begun its own 5G journey, and GSMA Intelligence estimates around 6% of the base will be using 5G, which is well below the regional average. But remembering, within Asia Pacific, some of the most advanced 5G markets in the world, such as South Korea, where over 3/4 of users will be on 5G by that time. Within South Asia, the penetration of 5G in India will be around average. However, the scale of the customer base promises that 5G innovation and use case developments will prioritise India, much like China dominates global 5G development at this time. Nevertheless, unique mobile penetration of the population continues to be below regional average, and the usage gap continues to be very high at 53% even in 2025. So the answer for what is the future network in the short term really is 4G. And the strategies and ecosystem investment must consider creating a sustainable and healthy network competition while seeking to reduce the usage gap as the potential for revenue drivers. Reducing the usage gap is dependent on a number of factors, with device and usage costs often highlighted. However, the gender gap and skills gap are equally important dimensions to focus on. India currently has some of the lowest usage charges in the world. Operators and OEMs are taking steps to optimize device costs. However, the global semiconductor shortage has begun to impact mobile device cost structures as well. Digital skills and the gender gap continue to be challenges in need of innovation and energy. I suggest consideration must also be applied to increasing the perception of value from using mobile broadband, which means encouraging international and domestic investment in digital services that return financial or appreciable value to the user, such as more prosperous business or save the user costs. This is even more important when considering that the development of a 5G ecosystem relies heavily on a mature 4G ecosystem, and the high penetration of smartphones and mobile broadband adoption to achieve a sustainable potential to support the India vision is critical. With respect to development of digital services, India does deserve congratulations. A key pillar of the digital India vision is the availability of high-speed internet as a core utility to every citizen, and India's mobile market has seen drastic improvements, both in terms of coverage, with 4G now widely available across the country, and affordability, some of the lowest prices for mobile services and devices in the world. Mobile identity and payments are also two areas where India is recognised across the world for creation of essential building blocks for the development of a digital society. While penetration may still lag the regional average, over 50% of new mobile internet users in Asia Pacific to 2025 will come from India. The increase of over 160 million users is larger than the total users in most other countries and represents an opportunity for revenue growth for telcos. Of course, smartphones are an essential tool for enabling access to maximise participation in the digital economy, and the expected growth driven by innovation and investment by telcos and OEMs will help ensure the usage gap is ripe for conversion. But we set out by talking about revenue drivers of future networks. From the data I've shown you, which is all available in our APAC Mobile Economy Report, which you can download from the URL in the bottom corner of the slide, the short-term 4G opportunity looks very bright. However, across the region, telcos are being challenged to grow revenue. In both developed and developing nations, market size growth is forecast to bounce back a little bit from losses brought on by COVID-19, where roaming revenues were decimated and economic slowdowns have depressed local growth. But average revenue growth across the region is still expected to settle below 1% by 2023, which highlights a real challenge for mobile operators, but also for governments seeking to accelerate digital transformation of economies and society. You need to consider that during this period, data usage per user is expected to grow by threefold, and investments in 5G launches will be required. For its reputation of low prices, high customer data usage, and identity and payment enablers, India is also renowned for some of the highest prices for spectrum worldwide, which has led to key spectrum bands going unsold. It directly limits the industry's ability to invest in upgrading mobile networks. This is already impacting network quality, and it's expected to affect India's longer-term future network, the 5G network, and its rollout. The GSMA's report, The Impacts of Millimetre Wave 5G in India, reveals that 5G technologies are estimated to make an overall contribution of approximately 450 billion to the Indian economy, which is around 0.6 of GDP, from 2023 to 2040. The manufacturing is set to benefit the most from 5G applications, accounting for about 20% of the total benefit, followed by retail with 12% and ICT 11%, as it prepares to adopt new disruptive technologies to drive improvements in productivity. 5G technology has significantly transformative potential for the Indian economy. However, there are significant risks to this forecast. In the short term, I noted the need for the adoption of policies and strategies to ensure the sustainable and healthy development of the 4G ecosystem and economy. To unlock the 5G potential, the Indian government must encourage investment in the form of timely and affordable spectrum. We will be releasing a report on spectrum pricing in India with detailed recommendations shortly, but in the interim, I would provide the following broad comments. Number one, we need to ensure that adequate 5G spectrum is available across low, mid, and high spectrum ranges to deliver widespread coverage and support all use cases. We need to eliminate spectrum usage charges and prioritize the assignment of all spectrum. And finally, number three is we need to adopt policy measures to encourage long-term heavy investments in 5G networks. Our vision at the GSMA is to unlock the full power of connectivity so that people, industry, and society thrive. 5G is part of that story, but we must also remember that strong foundations must be built in 4G. My presentation set out to highlight the revenue driver for telcos in the coming years and how that relates to next generation networks versus the networks we have in place now. There is potential, largely driven by organic growth of subscribers and usage, but its revenue impact is not certain. I would propose considering telco revenue is only one part of the story for the bigger picture of digital India. And what is critical to consider is that without a whole of government approach to drive policy reforms and develop interoperable regulatory frameworks that foster investment in a sustainable and healthy mobile industry, that the vision for digital India and the GDP potential from the transformation of industry and society is at serious risk. I look forward to the discussions throughout this conclave, seeking to advance these issues and the successful rise of digital India to its full potential. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gorman, for sharing inputs on the next generation network. Indeed, a very informative session with a lot of takeaways. Let's proceed to more such informative sessions. Stay tuned.